Given at the time of this filming, it's the fall harvest season, you either have one of these in your kitchen, one in your garden, or you couldn't help but notice it in a display at your local farmer's market or your supermarket. Pumpkin, squash, gourds, they're all part of the same family, and they are delicious. And one of my favorite applications is simply roasting this and having it on hand for any number of dishes. Stay tuned. Greetings everybody and welcome to Brian's Table. I'm Brian Singh and today we're going to tackle the gourd or squash or pumpkin, and we're going to roast it, and I'm going to discuss all the things that you can do with that. But in mastering this one simple technique, it opens the world to doing all sorts of wonderful things with this. When you roast a pumpkin, you actually get some lovely flesh that is already cooked and ready for use. I love to use it in soups. I love to add it to stews. I love to have it on hand so I can make a dip. One of my favorite dishes growing up in Trinidad is a dish called pumpkin choker, where you cook it with onion, garlic, a little bit of curry powder, and fenugreek, and have that as a dip with the pita bread, or what we refer to in Trinidad as sada roti. That's heaven to me. But also, it's great in baking, and for those people who are gluten-free, this is a wonderful addition to any number of cakes that takes out the flour and the gluten out of that particular product. And also, because it's naturally sweet, you could also reduce the amount of sugar in your dishes when you use pumpkin or squash. So, we have a question first. Is a pumpkin a squash, or is a squash a pumpkin? And what family are they part of? I actually had to go and hit Google on this one. Let's take a look. Well, it says here that pumpkin, squash, and gourds are all part of the same, I'm not going to pronounce that word, Cucurbitaceae family. Okay, but the genus Cucurbita, aka squash, falls under the same family as pumpkins, watermelons, and cucumbers. So, yeah, and the traditional pumpkin is referred to as a winter squash. So there you go, a little bit of knowledge here to help you improve your pumpkin knowledge. Let's discuss how we're going to roast this pumpkin. Traditionally, using one of the classic reference guides of cooking, The Joy of Cooking, it says in here, cook your pumpkin at 325 for 1 hour. Most of the applications that they're going to use roasted pumpkin for are in sweets in here. I find that if you take it at a higher temperature, it brings more of that roasted flavor that you could also use for savory dishes, while it adds a little something different to sweet dishes. So let's break down how I go about doing this. To roast a pumpkin, this is the extent of my specialized equipment. I have a sheet pan with parchment paper and a knife. First thing that we need to do, we need to remove the stalk off of the pumpkin. It's tough, but just keep working at it and you will eventually get it out. Ta-da! Ta-da! We did it. Okay, now for the next stage where we want to cut the pumpkin in half. So pick a spot on the equator of the pumpkin or squash, because again, this works for things like butternut squash as well, and also things like kabocha, and even the delicata squashes you want to roast too, but the delicata squashes are a little bit different because you can eat the skin on those, and that's also quite tasty. But as you can see, just applying a little bit of elbow grease, you start to get at cutting the pumpkin in half.
A few minutes later.
Wow, look at that beautiful orange color. So you have choices here at the moment. Either you want to remove the seeds, or I really like keeping the seeds in at this stage because they do add some additional flavor and infuses the pumpkin. At this point, the task is to simply put the pumpkin on the baking sheet and stick it in the oven. But I'm going to also say that you also have another choice here if you want to really experiment. Traditionally, you want to leave your pumpkin upright, so therefore any juices will seep down into the area, into the cavity where the seeds are. But some people also, they like to cook it upside down. So I'm actually going to do one right side up and one upside down so you can see it. I'm going to put this in the oven now, and I have the oven set at 375, and I'm going to set the timer for 45 minutes. Let's stick it in the middle part of the oven. We'll check in on that when it's done. So it's been 55 minutes. Because I do live at altitude, things are going to take a little bit longer. I cooked it at 375 and for 55 minutes. I want to make a point here of why I follow the particular way I do it versus what people generally accept as the other way. So at 55 minutes, I'm going to stick my fork in here, and as you can see, that's given away quite a way. That's quite soft. That is completely done. So when you cook it with the cut side down, you get a steaming effect. So if you do it properly, you're not going to get a lot of liquid loss, and you're going to get the concentration of flavor there. Let me flip this over. Yes, I'm doing this barehanded. Do not do this at home, folks. As you can see, that's all coming out already. So you are already quite cooked there. So it's going to take a little effort to clean that one up. Here, this is going to need another 15 to 20 minutes. So that's the big difference here. I'm going to put that back in, take this other one out, clean it up, and let's come in for the wrap up after that. And there you have it, a bowl of orange gold. I really love having roasted pumpkin around. As I said, this is, if you want to make a pumpkin pie, this is what you need. You know, you can go and get it from a can, but that roasted pumpkin is just that much more intense in flavor. When you get that many pumpkins and you don't know what to do with it, this is really a good strategy. And I feel that just keeping roasted pumpkin around, you're going to improve your game. I'm going to put this up in two ways. I'm going to put some in a container. I'm going to make a Middle Eastern dip with it. I'm also going to put some in the freezer. And that would, if I put it in the freezer, it will last for about 3 to 4 months. So I could also come back and make a roasted pumpkin soup. Maybe even add it to callaloo, which is a Caribbean dish, and make a callaloo soup and serve that with some seafood. The possibilities are endless when you have a really good prepared ingredient around and it's there ready to be used. Okay, folks, question of the day. Do you call it pumpkin, squash, or gourds? Let me know in the comments below, okay? In the meantime, thanks again for watching and spending time with me. Your support is invaluable. If you like what you're seeing, please hit the subscribe button. It really does help my channel. And I hope that you take the opportunity, keep some roasted squash or pumpkin around, and elevate your cooking game, and gives you more opportunities to go out there and taste the world.